When I think of my nostalgia for Golden Sun 1, I remember an incredible looking game with some amazing music. The story, characters, and combat also served as huge highlights for me, and I was very impressed with how cool and unique the Djinn system was. This was without a doubt one of the most powerful games from my childhood, and I cherish those moments a great deal. And after rewatching my playthrough, I've decided to place it behind Lost Sphere. Here's why. Since this was a second plus playthrough, my play experience was decently familiar at the time. I had remarked how I played the game around 3 years prior, and some aspects were still fresh in my mind. I was familiar with the story, the gameplay, and the music. Despite that familiarity, my interactions with the game were still very positive. For the first time, I collected all the Djinn with the assistance of a guide, and that felt like an accomplishment I could check off. On top of that, I was still drawn into the gameplay of Golden Sun 1. Moving around towns and talking to villagers, looking for secret items, interacting with puzzle elements, and the combat all felt fun. The visuals of the game were also very unique for me, as I had not been introduced to a pixel art game with this much detail in its world, and even more detail in its combat sequences. While giving my thoughts on the game, I had remarked that I had a good time, but there were certainly aspects that felt inflated by the nostalgia I had. The story was decent, and while it doesn't end as abruptly as I thought I remembered, it wasn't a satisfying ending to me with the cliffhanger I received. Additionally, some gameplay elements, both tiny and not, stood out, such as the puzzles really struggling to be qualified as puzzles for me. With the exception of Crossbone Isle and the colored statues in Venus Lighthouse, it felt like every puzzle was considerably underwhelming. For the rewatch, it was fun to revisit Golden Sun 1 because it's one of those games where I feel I can't say enough about its visual style. I'm very much a bright, vibrant colors person, and this game delivers on that appeal. The pixel art is immaculate, and the music contains some of my favorite tracks ever. I also thought the combat was quick and responsive. Battles rarely felt like they were a slog to get through, as menu navigation made sense and inputting commands was very fast. That, coupled with the amazing sprite work and the cool interactions of Djinn and summons, it was a joy to experience these elements again. With that said, I think the story is where the game falters. In our few interactions with our antagonists, we learn a lot about them and what is happening around the world, but aside from that, there's very little going on. Our main objective is to stop Saturos and Minardi from activating the lighthouses, and we get bogged down from that quest by a bunch of various issues that don't play much of a role in the grand scope of the game. From saving Trent, the Toby boat voyage, or Colosso, it felt like we strayed from our quest and weren't really treating it with the respect it needed. There are also moments where the game gives very little direction on where to go or what to do, such as visiting Calais for the first time and the discussion of saving Hammett from Dodampa. You can't save Hammett at that portion of the game, but it tries very hard to point you in that wrong direction. Based on memory, I ranked Golden Sun 1 at 10 out of 117, and I don't think it belongs there. The game has so many wonderful memories attached to it, but when revisiting the game, it felt like some things were omitted and not weighted properly. The story, while tackling some neat aspects, wasn't as cohesive as I would have liked. The puzzles, aside from Crossbone Isle and the colored statues in Venus Lighthouse, very much disappointed me when compared to nostalgia. Using psi energy outside of combat to interact with multiple objects was tedious, and the fake dialogue choices that presented but required a yes annoyed me to no end. Additionally, tying the interact button and the menu button to the same button is crazy to me. On top of that, the Toby boat voyage sequence may go down as one of the least enjoyable experiences from this series, and perhaps beyond the series. The repeated sequences, dialogue, lack of interactivity, and the length of time it took were not fun to experience or go through. So, with all that said, I think it comes up behind Lost Sphere. Both games provide an overall positive experience in the gameplay department, but Lost Sphere's story was something I was more invested in throughout the game. While the visuals and music were among my all-time favorites for Golden Sun 1, the story experience heavily weighs it down. Its saving grace for me is effectively its combat, where it truly shines and shows a lot of thoughtful and creative choices that hit the mark. However, it just wasn't enough to overcome its competitors in this instance.